Welcome to Sligo TV. I'm joined by Yngve Wieland and The Innocent. They're in Barry's promoting the recent release of their album Tell Men This.
Correct.
Okay, can you tell us what you've been up to lately?
Well, I guess we've been touring quite a lot this year. The album came out at the end of last year, and we're based over in London at the moment, so we've been gigging nearly every week over there, and we've also been in Ireland quite a bit as well.
Okay. And just to get a bit of background into the band.
Well, the current lineup is the most kind of the current lineup is all based in London, whereas previously I've been living in Dublin and Sligo before that, so it's been quite a turnover of musicians over the last 3 years or so. And the band that play on the album, none of them actually play with me now in the live setup.
All right.
It was more of a collective ideal. Back when we were doing the album, there was 14 or 15 musicians involved, and we recorded up here in Sligo, kind of quite close to where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of friends. I had a previous band, Space to Be Yourself Collective, who joined me in studio, and then a lot of guest musicians, kind of local musicians involved as well.
Where did you get the idea for the Space to Be Yourself Collective?
Well, that kind of the phrase came from a separate art project that I was involved in as well. A girl who sang with me on the record, Benny Riley, who also designed the artwork for the album, she gave me a drawing that she'd done for a birthday present a couple of years ago, and I wrote a song about that, which eventually actually made it on the album, which she sings on, so it kind of came full circle. But the relationship between art and music, I guess, in that instance, I thought was something that was quite interesting, because it was a creative expression. It wasn't like it wasn't like you give someone a gift and you pay $20 for it, or 20 quid or 20 pounds or whatever, and you return that present by buying something. It's a creative thing that you make. So in me writing a song which I recorded and gave her as a present, and she drawing something, and that kind of sparked the Space to Be Yourself concept as such. And we did this postcard. There's one here. There's one lying around here. The postcard, and basically we hand them out at gigs, and people draw things or write things, and they post them back to us, and we do some exhibitions at gigs, or they're just a nice kind of people can express themselves on it. Yeah.
And how did you feel when you had like the finished debut album in your hands with the artwork and everything was all finished?
Relieved.
It must have been a proud moment though.
Well, definitely a proud moment. Yeah. No, I'm very happy with the album, and the more time passes, the more I enjoy listening to it actually. But when you're working on something like that, for me, songwriting is something that's quite liberating, something quite enjoyable, and performing. But the ultimate culmination of a song is when you record it, and when you put it down in permanent form on an album or as a single or whatever, you release it, and that's it. The song is finished. It's not. You're not necessarily going to change it or re-record it. When you perform it differently every time with different musicians, and but essentially, when you record something, it's a finished product. So you try and put a lot of thought into it, and you try and get it right. And we spent a year in between mixing, editing, and recording to get it to that stage.
Okay. And have the songs changed in the structure now from when the album was finished to the guys that you have playing with you now?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously on the album there's a lot of female harmonies, a lot of female vocals, and generally we've always had a female band member. Our most recent band member, Alice, she left last week. Due to personal circumstances, shall we say, and so at the moment now we're gigging the songs with a 3-part male harmony, which is working really well.
Did that take a lot of work to kind of?
Well, yes and no. I mean, myself and Palmy were singing anyway in a 3-part harmony structure with Alice before, and we've just basically replaced Alice's harmonies with Ned's here. So so we've worked on it this week, and hopefully things will go right for the next couple of gigs. I mean, we are looking to recruit another band member, but I have to say I've really enjoyed having the 3-part male harmonies, which is very different to anything I've done over the last few years, and especially very different to the album, because you've got 2 female vocals backing you up, whereas now you've 2 male vocals. But I quite enjoy having people come to a gig, and and they might expect to hear something, but you don't always want to give people what to expect. You might as well just stick the album on.
Keep them on toes, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as long as you're kind of confident in what you're doing, and if you still give a representation of the song, people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, and you have your brother Damien in the band as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Live together, drums, work together, and play music together. So,
any Gallagher brother moments, you know?
We've had a few, I'm sure.
And
he's the bigger drinker.
Okay, your father, but both of you said played in a blues band.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I got into music, and I guess how Damien got into his drumming as well, because he plays drums, and Damien takes after him, I guess.
How big an influence was your father?
Oh, very much so. I mean, we always had the drum kit in the house, so just one day I just started playing, really, because my band needed a drummer, so I just supposed to look after my dad and that, I always look up to him, he's a big inspiration to me.
He's a big encouragement.
Oh, definitely, yeah, he's been behind me all the way. So
I think it's just having the music around us when we were growing up, he played in a blues band, and they rehearsed in our house, so we had 10 musicians every Sunday came around, and when they gigged there was often 10-12 people on stage.
Yeah, we'd always join in, for a jam with my dad's band.
Or I'd help out with the sound and stuff like that. So
how did you end up navigating towards drums?
Well, to be honest, it was just a matter of, I was in the band, I was playing guitar at the time, and our drummer wasn't very good, so we kind of sacked him, and
it's hard to get a good drummer, isn't it?
And I kind of just started playing then, and just kind of took off from there. Played a gig within about a month or two. I was starting to play drums, so it's a bit of a fast development.
You were studying in London?
Yeah, I went to London then recently, just last year. I spent a year at Drum Tech College there, studying drums, which I really enjoyed.
So that was kind of the main reason for me moving to London, was because he was studying drums over there. So himself and Benny were both based in London, and it's one of the main reasons for the move, plus that there's a much bigger music industry over there in comparison to Dublin, where I was before. I think Ireland is brilliant for developing as a musician, but it is quite a small market, and even though there's such a supportive community, you still need that bigger market and kind of an actual structure and industry around you that can do more things for you than they possibly could in Ireland, and that's where we found Palmy and Ned as well. I mean,
how do you lads like living in London?
I absolutely love it. But basically that's my home at the moment.
That's your home.
Yeah. So I'm actually originally from Iceland, so I came here to study music. Met Yngve on
break music from out of Iceland now.
Well, yeah. Let everyone decide it for himself. I met Yngve on both of us friends were playing on a gig, and he said he was looking for a bass player, so that's how I kind of joined the band. So
then joined through a friend she sang in the band for a short period of time, and then she mentioned her as a keyboard player. So kind of the whole band came about through quite a lot of random circumstances, and that's the way it kind of always happened, But it's often how the best bands are formed, by chance.
Well, what have been your highlights touring so far? Like, what venues have you enjoyed?
Well, just around London, mainly coming over to Dublin, so it's always been fun. I played Wieland, we played a few months back for the album launch.
Yeah, Wieland's a great place to play.
Yeah, no, it's nice. And
recent gig at Odessa, about a few weeks ago.
As well. So I mean, this is the first time that I've taken these guys around the country, I guess. So we're down in Galway and Roisin Dublin Sunday, and we're back in Dublin tomorrow, and it's very nice to come home as well. I mean, to home country and to play a gig here. So.
And you played Radio City as well. How was that?
Yeah, well, when I guess before we recorded the album, we played in Radio City like every month for about 6 months, and back then it was a new venue. That would have been 2006, and they were trying to get up and coming bands in. So Tanya Lawless there and the whole venue. So they were very supportive of up and coming bands, and it's quite established venue now.
Yeah.
So we're playing this Revolver Club night tomorrow, where there's 4 bands playing, and it's very well promoted, and looking forward to it.
You played in Barry's now a few times. Is this one of your favourite venues to play?
It is, because I really like the sound set up here as well. I mean, it was renovated a couple of years ago, and they got a lot of brilliant acts in here. And as well, it's local, so you have the local support of musicians that lend you equipment, and the venue itself is. I mean, that's what's one of my first gigs ever. I think was playing here, and was recorded live at the time by Colin, who runs the venue here, and it was great for me starting off to be able to have somewhere local to play, and here and in Barella in Sligo were two venues that
I think that's
were our
where
first
I
gig.
first heard about it, was through Barella.
Yeah, I mean, I used to play the open mic and I used to play finger picking blues, and you know, people like Bill Stewart who plays in the album, he used to play there quite a lot, and Cahill Donna, whose dad I recorded my first EP in, he would have been there, and he played bass on one of the tracks on my first EP back in 2005. So
Yeah, no problem.
yeah.
And Bill's not playing here tonight, is he?
He is. He's going to join us. Yeah, he's going to join us for 4 or 5 songs later on. We got him in last minute. Like I said, you know, Alice left the band last week, so we're missing a violinist and a vocalist. But I mean, we've gigged quite frequently in this lineup before, and we're very comfortable playing as a unit. So.
And were you all playing together when you supported Paul Weller?
No, I was still playing solo back then.
you used to play solo, right?
Yeah, that was my last.
He's last rage and he missed out, yeah?
That was a brilliant gig. I mean, it was sold out in the Olympia. It's one of my favourite
Yeah.
venues in Ireland. So hopefully one day we'll get back there. You know.
Yeah, I saw a picture of you on you know, I think it was the MySpace page.
All right,
with
yeah.
Paul Weller, yeah.
he was a gentleman. I
You
have
looked
to
a
say.
little bit starstruck. I thought.
Well, to be honest, I wouldn't have listened to a huge amount of Paul
Really?
Weller before, supported him, which is probably a bit of a terrible thing to say. But I got the gig through MCD, the promoters at the time, and I got a phone call. It was very last minute, and I went in and played. And it was only afterward that I started listening to him and some of his solo stuff, the album Illumination, and obviously the old Style Council and
Yeah.
stuff like that as well. So yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, what music shows now that are being broadcast on TV that would you think would be a good vehicle for what you do? Like, say, for instance, Jules Holland or other voices. What would you like to get on that you think might give you?
Yeah,
a push?
you've named the two main ones there. Like in Ireland, Other Voices is probably the main one, really. You know, that people want to get onto in Ireland, and in the UK and worldwide, Jules Holland is pretty much the pinnacle as far as live music shows. You know, live music television shows go.
Yeah, it's a great show.
So I mean, there's been time when, you know, there's been some sort of contact there, but it's not obviously, you know, it's a tough one to crack. So hopefully we'll get on that over the
I think
next few years.
that show. I think the Other Voices show. I think in particular.
We'll definitely
Great
suit
for
us.
you to get on
Yeah,
that.
certainly. Yeah. So we're looking into that at the moment.
And what's next? What's next on the?
Well, basically, you know, Yngve and the Innocent are going to be releasing some new tracks soon. So we did a live session in Dublin with Mizu TV. They're like they have a studio and they bring bands
Yeah,
in.
you have a couple of videos up on that site.
Yeah. Well, we've one up at the moment. We did 3 new ones. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think it was about 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And we did 3 new songs there, and they're going to be coming up online pretty soon. And we have 2 singles recorded with producer Owen Bailey, who did the album as well. So he's been working with us with this new material as well, and it's nearly finished.
Tell us a bit about Owen.
Well, Owen, again, it's funny that we were sitting in Grange talking about this, because that's where we met Owen, was, at the Grange Music Festival. Again, would have been 2006, and it would have had a completely different band at the time, which I've been touring with for 2 years at the time then. And he was doing the sound for the Grange Music Festival, and he heard us play, and afterwards, you know, I was chatting to him, and he said he'd really like to record us. And that's how that band split up at the time, because the 2 female vocalists I had at the time, they felt we weren't necessarily ready to record. I thought we were. So they parted company, and I got friends and session musicians and you know, people like that, people I knew in to help with the album. And we spent a year and a half making it. I think the process of making the album as well has, you know, bettered me as a musician an awful lot.
Good learning process. Because obviously, you know, you're recording to a metronome and everything as well, so it's just
I get sick of hearing click tracks, but more so than click tracks, you know, it's the fact that you're hearing yourself back to a professional standard, so you hear exactly what you're doing wrong, or you know, or how the songs are coming about and how they're being arranged and produced. So it's very insightful into how each part of a band should fit together, not just, you know, the vocals need to be loud. You know, you go into very much in detail.
Did you want the kind of live sound when you were recording the album? Did you just want that?
Well, the fact that most of the musicians didn't know the song when they came into the studio wasn't conducive to doing a live set. So it wasn't recorded live. Some of it was, most of it wasn't.
What track are you most proud of on the album?
Well, I've never been asked that before, actually, but I guess it's very difficult. I mean, everyone has their favorite song. I mean, I don't have a favorite track. I have favorite moments in songs. You know, like there's certain guitar solos I'd be especially proud of, or certain arrangements or harmonies. And you know, depending on your mood. I mean, music is such a it's such a difficult one to say it's my favorite song, my favorite album, my favorite artist, because in my opinion it depends completely on how you're feeling at the time. Whether you're upbeat or whether you're, whether you're woken up in the morning with a hell of a hangover, So, you wouldn't want to be listening to AC/DC when you wake up with a roaring hangover, whereas you might listen to Sigur Rós or something. So.
What a great band voice on it.
I thought I'd throw it in there.
Do you have a favourite track on the album?
I do. I'd rather keep it for myself. I would say Middle Child Syndrome is probably my favourite one. Everything about that has a sort of a dark side. I've always been, of course, a blues, a progressive rocker, which is quite strange. And one in a sort of a Irish folk Americana band.
So what about yourself?
I'm very fond of Middle Child. It's the first song that we played together, I think, when I joined the band. I quite like Yngve's guitar at the end of the album. They'd probably be the standout for me.
I don't know, I like them all, to be honest.
Diplomatic answer.
Good answer. The song that you seem to push from that album was probably Little Boy.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's been mooted as a single release in the summer.
You had a video made for it.
Yeah, well, we submitted it. We submitted to Hot Press for a competition, and it was selected by the Tisch School of Music in New York to have a music video made by it.
That's something that Hot Press do every year, isn't
it? They do it. I think it's even twice a year. It's definitely every year, yeah. And it's a great thing to have for up and coming musicians in Ireland.
It is
because the music video can obviously yourselves, with online TV or it's a great thing to have up on YouTube or on your various video sharing sites.
And that was probably the first time you've had your music interpreted. Like, how did that feel? Like,
it was nice, to be honest. Like, the producer, Kelly Carnahan, she had this concept and I worked with her on it, but we were very busy at the time in London gigging, so I didn't have that much input in terms of like the plot of the video and such. It was very much her. I let her run with it, and myself and Benny and Michelle, who sing on the album, they joined me for the video for that.
The artwork seems to play a big part in the presentation of your music as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, when I was explaining about the Space to Be Yourself project with the postcards and the relationship between the art and the music on one of the tracks anyway, so it was only natural that I'd ask Benny to do the artwork for the album, and so she painted the piece Hellmendus, which we have right here. So she painted that specifically for the album. Then we used another one of her drawings, Mutton Girl, on the inside sleeve. So we used carbon neutral packaging, which
I was just going to ask you that. You seem to be
it's
very eco-friendly.
Well, I grew up on an organic farm in Sligo myself and my brother, so it was in our blood
Lots of
from the beginning.
Organic vegetables.
A lot of organic vegetables, yeah. So it was difficult when we first moved away from home to be deprived of that, but you make do. But there's a company in England called Davis and Rubin Media who have this EcoPack packaging, and we worked with them and very happy with it. You can buy it in the shops and online.
I was going to ask you as well. You have a beautifully decorated guitar, which I hear is.
Well, it's not technically my guitar, I guess. I've kind of taken ownership of it, I suppose. It was a guy called Roger Daltrey, not the Roger Daltrey, but his name was Roger Daltrey, and he played in my dad's blues band and with local musicians like John O'Dea and Paul Wilson at the time.
I hear the guitar is older than you are.
I'm sure it's nearly twice as old as me, and he made it himself, and he painted it and made it himself, and he used to play these lovely blues licks sitting down in his amp. He's a very quiet man, an absolute gentleman, and he sadly passed away a few years ago. And when he did, he left his guitar, his amp and his CDs to the band room in Sligo that the band used to rehearse in over the years. And people played it for a while, but then it was sitting there for a while, for about a year and a half. And when I was back home in Sligo from living in Dublin, I picked it up and more or less fell in love with it. And I thought, well, he'd rather have it played on stage or regularly played rather than sitting in the corner. So I guess I appropriated it, and when I play live now, we try and dedicate a song to him. It's a beautiful guitar, and nice for him as well to have it.
You're one of these guitarists that kind of, has different guitars for create different atmospheres.
Yeah, it is. It was mainly tunings as well. I mean, when I started off playing finger-picking blues guitar, we used a lot of open tunings, open G, open D, and various alterations of that. And so when we play live now, the three guitars I use generally I use 3 because it's all I can carry. But they're tuned in 3 different tunings. Ideally I'd like to have 5 or 6 guitars so that you, like you said, so you can vary it according to sound and not to tuning.
Yeah.
But at the moment we're a bit restricted in that. So.
Okay. You have the guitar there, have you? Can we take a look at it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is the guitar, Roger's guitar, call it, and yeah.
It looks great in all the photographs.
It does, yeah. But it plays great as well. It's a beautifully crafted guitar, and it's in a Dan Electro style. And yeah, I must really do a bit more research on it. But it's a handmade guitar, so there's only so much you can find out, really. You know? But yeah, I love playing it.
I was going to ask you about the song Letter Books.
Letter Book.
Letter Book, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. 3rd track on the album. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a line. You should know better than to live life by the letter book.
Yeah,
What influenced that song?
Well, lots of things. At the time, it was. I mean, often when you talk to songwriters, you go back to the relationship that they're in at the time when you write the song. And for us, or for me at the time, I'm saying for us now, but for me at the time, I was in a relationship, and I guess letter book you can interpret as, you know, as a Bible, obviously, which is the most literal one. Right. But in my case, it was more to do with convention and the convention of marriage, and the fact that you have, in probably older Catholic society, you have your traditional route that young people are expected to go, which is through your relationship stage, marriage, and you settle down. And I guess we should know life better than live life by the letter book is more about, necessarily when you don't have to get married, or you don't have to do this, or you don't have to live by a certain convention, and because you're religious you don't have to follow a certain route. And I guess it was more to do with that, and with that when you're in a relationship you shouldn't feel like you're under pressure to fulfill a stereotype, I guess, is a synopsis of it.
Okay. And the lads kind of picked out Middle Child Syndrome as one of their favourites. What can you tell us about?
Yeah, well, it's one of the first songs that I wrote when I was playing with a band back in 2006, which is when I first started gigging with the band. And I guess Middle Child Syndrome, it's a song about growing up, about when I write songs I often adopt a persona, so that you start off writing a song from personal experience, and then you take it and you go to a different place using whatever, a different persona as such. And it's a song about growing up. Middle Child Syndrome, it's obviously middle children are often, if you research it a bit, they're often quite ambitious because they're trying to get out of not being the younger sibling or not being the older one. So traditionally they're often overlooked a bit more, which wasn't the case in my case, but I thought it was a nice concept to run with, and I enjoyed playing it live.
Okay. All right. That's great. Thanks a million, lads, for talking to us.
Thank you very much for having us.
And have a great gig tonight.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you again. I'm
okay,
sure.
and everybody go check out the album. Tell Men This.
Yeah, and the website spacetobeyourself.com.
Okay.
So see you around.
Right. Thank you.